This is a guide on how to make some crude and some less crude tetraamine copper nitrate. This is what the crude stuff will look like. It's not very blue, very small crystal sizes, there's some contaminants, and it's not very energetic. And the pure stuff is much better. Its crystal size is larger, and it's much more blue. I unfortunately do not have any samples right now because I spent all of the stuff that I made in a burn test because I had very little of it. I currently more crystallizing up in the fridge, but I'm gonna wait until I get as much as possible. Anyways, you can see that my workspace is a bit of a mess. We have a bunch of filters over here, and here we have the crude stuff. This is just a this is supposed to be like a spice rack, a thing full of a urea solution. It's orange because it was some pretty dirty fertilizer that I got it from. A jar with a depleted TACN solution and an industrial TACN solution. This one I got from a parent who works at a who works at a company that manufactures fertilizers, pesticides, herbicides, stuff like that. This is copper nitrate. It's a 14% solution. It's very blue. It's very pretty. Most people are not going to have access to this. Most people have access to ammonia. I just got this from hardware store. And the vinegar is down there, but it's not needed. Gloves are preferred. I wouldn't say they're strictly required because you're not working with anything super dangerous, so it is good lab practice to have gloves. So I'm going to say wear gloves. I'm not going to waste my super good chemical resistant gloves. But anyways, onto the ingredients. First, you'll need some ammonium calcium nitrate, or calcium ammonium nitrate, often abbreviated as CAN. I also got this from my local hardware store, the same place where I got the ammonia. This stuff does come with a bit of chalk in it, and you will want to filter that out. To make a filter, you can just take any regular funnel, and then, I don't know why there's a candy wrapper there, stuff like some cotton balls, or these cotton pads into the end of it. If you stuff it in tight enough, then it acts as a really good filter. You're not going to be able to easily collect anything, so if you want to collect your byproduct, or I guess side products, you won't want to collect the chalk, but we will be producing a chemical at a certain step. If you want to collect that, because why not, then I'd recommend using a coffee filter in the funnel instead of the cotton balls. The cotton balls just seem to, I like them more. It's a lot nicer. But anyways, I need to switch the hand in which I'm holding the phone. So one ingredient, we have the ammonium calcium nitrate, or calcium ammonium nitrate. We have the CAN. Then the other ingredient is root killer. I have this Zep brand root kill, and as you can see in the ingredients down here, the main ingredient is 100% copper sulfate pentahydrate. It's 99%, but that's still most of it. So this root kill stuff is really good. It's pure copper sulfate. And copper sulfate also on its own is a very pretty chemical. Let me just open this real quick. Okay, so you can't see it, so I'm going to pour it out. Is this dry? Yes. This is copper sulfate. It is a lovely blue solid and a great source of copper ions for inorganic chemistry. I'm just going to put this back in real quick. Okay, so we've got our two main ingredients. Actually, these are pretty much the two things we need: ammonium calcium nitrate and root kill. And the reason we need these two specifically to make the TACN, let me just find a marker. Gotta have it already somewhere. What's the point of having an art cabinet if you can't find any art supplies in it? I found a marker. It was over here next to my 3D printer. Anyways. The reason we need these two chemicals specifically, CAN and root killer. So root killer looks like this. It's the 2+, and then we have this is copper sulfate. We have one copper and one sulfate. Pretty self-explanatory. This is calcium ammonium nitrate. It's a bit more complicated. I'm not going to draw it like this where you have the relative structure because, well, let me just show you. The chemical formula, so this would be CuSO4. Calcium ammonium nitrate has a chemical formula of So, if you're not very chemistry literate, if you're like a very beginner or you don't study it at all, this might not make any sense. But basically, we have calcium nitrate. So here's calcium, Ca, and I put NO3 in parentheses because we actually have two of them. I'm not writing N2O6 because that could mean some other stuff. So you write the base, which is NO3, the nitrate, which is this. This is the nitrate ion. It's a bit, I just drew it a bit janky, but basically 1 nitrogen, 3 oxygen, there's a double bond somewhere. So then nitrogen has a positive, oxygen have negative, 2 negatives and 1 positive. It has a total charge of minus. So anyways, there's 5 calcium nitrate groups, and then right here we have the NH4NO3. Now NH4 is the ammonium ion, which is, you know, the N, then you have H, and then H. This is a tetrahedral structure, and the reason I drew this one with dashes is because it actually goes that way. So these two would actually be coming straight slightly this way, but we have a 2D surface and ions are 3D. So basically, imagine a tetrahedron or D4, and the hydrogens are on each corner, the nitrogen is in the center. This has a charge of +1. Then the nitrate, as shown above, has a charge of -1. And then there's just 10 water molecules tacked on, so it's a decahydrate. So 5 calcium nitrate, 1 ammonium nitrate, 10 water. And what we can do with these is something known as a double displacement reaction. Basically, we take the CuSO4 and then the 5CaNO3 2 NH4 NO3 10H2O. If we dissolve these up into a solution and mix them together, what happens is, if we have 5 of these, when an ionic compound dissolves into water, the ions, the cation and the anion, they separate, they split up. This is actually what makes water with ions in it conductive. It makes it the different ions can move between electrodes and like transmit current. So the what happens in the solution is the sulfate is freed from the copper, and the nitrate is freed from the calcium. So then you have 2 nitrate ions and a sulfate ion for each copper and calcium ion combined. So what happens is, if this sulfate can coordinate with this calcium, it makes a new molecule, calcium sulfate. And this molecule, it makes a solid that is only very, very slightly soluble in water. It is mostly insoluble. So what happens is this crashes out of solution as a fine solid. And that leaves us with just 2 nitrate ions and a copper ion. And that means that the only thing left is for these two to coordinate together. But because it's still in solution, they don't until you dry it out and remove all the water from it, where you get a combination of copper nitrate and ammonium nitrate. And these two together are actually very important. The thing is, we are trying to make a tetraamine copper compound, which looks like this. You have the central copper core, and then you have these amine ligands, and then you have 4 of them. This is the tetraamine ion. So this has a charge of +2, just like the normal copper ion. So that means this can coordinate with some nitrate and make, it can coordinate with 2 nitrates and make tetraamine copper nitrate, or TACN. This is a molecule we're looking for. So, how do we put these amine ligands onto the copper? Well, the answer is actually quite simple. You just add ammonia to it. So, the ammonia will basically coordinate with the copper and do exactly what we want it to do, make the tetraamine core. And this tetraamine core is, it has a lot of fuel, basically. Like these nitrogen, if they snap together into nitrogen gas, that releases a lot of energy. And you have 6 oxygen atoms to 12 atoms of hydrogen. That means that you have just enough to oxidize all the hydrogen into water, which also releases a pretty good amount of energy. I mean, if you ever seen those HHO gas demonstrations, where you like bubble some HHO through soapy water, scoop the bubbles into your hand, then light it on fire, and then it like detonates with a loud bang. That's the creation of water. So if you combine that with the creation of nitrogen, which actually allows it to release enough pressure to cause damage, then you can get a pretty effective energetic. And the entire synthesis is just very simple. I could go over the creation of the copper nitrate in the first place, but I've already done that, so I'm just going to see if I can tack some other videos, and I don't have any editing software on my phone, so I'm going to see what I can do about that. But basically, the addition of ammonia to copper nitrate, it first precipitates out this light blue solid, which is copper hydroxide, as the pH increases. So here, if I can, if I tilt this to the side, that blue stuff is most likely copper hydroxide, or calcium sulfate contaminated with copper salts, but I'm pretty sure it's copper hydroxide. I think that solution is a bit, the ammonia is a bit dilute, but I'm not too sure. Anyways, it precipitates out copper hydroxide as the amount of hydroxide ions increase from the presence of the base, that is ammonia. Ammonia makes alkaline solutions in water, which lead to an increase in hydroxide ions, which causes copper hydroxide to precipitate out. But as you continue adding more ammonia, the copper hydroxide sort of redissolves and then coordinates to make the lovely dark blue compound that is TACN. And this is what you want to see. Now, if your ammonia is good enough, I think your TACN will just sort of precipitate out, but I'm not too sure. Because my ammonia is actually quite weak. This is like 3 or 5% ammonia. But what I've found works is if I make the solution to be like as concentrated as possible, I take some copper nitrate and then I add ammonia to it until all the copper hydroxide redissolves and turns into the TACN. I then separate it out into smaller batches and then put it into the fridge for a bit, for like 6 hours or more, to let all the TACN crystallize out. And then you can filter it out again. This time you should definitely use a coffee filter so you can actually easily capture it, and then maybe wash it a few times with isopropyl alcohol of a concentration ideally of 100%. 90% also works, and so does 70%. 70% will dissolve a little bit, but it's pretty insoluble. The TACN is pretty insoluble in most of alcohols for the most part. So you can wash it in that and get rid of other contaminants like residual copper nitrate, maybe copper sulfate, calcium sulfate maybe, but the TACN will remain, and it will be pretty pure. And to actually use TACN, you can do a few things. You can dehydrate it by heating it to like 80 degrees for a while. I'm not sure how long. I haven't done it because I so far using the oven for chemistry has been vetoed by the people I live with. But you can just use it the way it is, though in that state it's optimal to use a detonator, which I am not going to describe how to make because I have not made it and I have no useful commentary to offer on it. But a YouTube channel that goes by the name of Doug, D-U-G, has made a pretty in-depth video on detonators. It's like 53 minutes long. I haven't watched the entire thing yet, because I haven't quite gotten to that point, but you can, just go watch it. I'm not going to tell you how to use, a TACN, because I, for the most part, don't know. I tried taking some TACN, bundling it up in aluminum foil, and then compressing it and putting it over a flame from the alcohol burner right there, and it didn't work. It made some pretty cool flames for like 30 seconds and then just stopped doing anything interesting. So I either didn't confine it properly, didn't heat it properly, or it wasn't dry, or something else, but either way, it just didn't really work very well. So, I would recommend maybe putting a bit more, like, effort into using TCN if you want to do anything with it other than just look at it, because it is a very beautiful compound. And a little tip for you: these copper compounds stain very, very, very strongly. And look at my fingernail, it's blue. My other hand has come out pretty much unscathed. I don't know what that black stuff is. This finger's blue for some reason. And that's like with only very, very minor contact with the actual salts. So if it gets on your carpet, it's not coming out. Or like, it's only coming out after a lot of effort. So I'd recommend doing something like getting an activity table mat like this. This is waterproof, so stuff can be done in it without any worries of causing damage. And I would recommend maybe planning out like how you're going to take care of a spill that might happen. If you are careful with it, you shouldn't need eye protection. Do not drink the copper. Copper salts are pretty well known for being pretty toxic. Even though copper is a trace nutrient, it is pretty toxic to various things. Actually, this copper nitrate is used because it's pretty toxic to, I think, bacteria and fungi, especially. And then plants are like relatively unaffected, but they still get the nitrogen they need due to the nitrate part. So it makes it like kind of a cheat code in terms of fertilizer. It makes it very good. Ammonia is also used as a fertilizer. Basically, it's just any form of soluble nitrogen, because plants need nitrogen. So if you can give them nitrogen, it's ideal. But anyways, that's like a description on how to make it. If I can figure it out, I will try to edit the video of me actually doing it into the end of this. If I can't figure it out, then I will just, upload it separately. But yeah, that is a description on what you're doing, why, how it works, why you might want to do it. I haven't really covered. Maybe you just want to have a really pretty blue compound. Maybe you want to have something that burns somewhat energetically with a nice green flame. Maybe you just want to like partake in some minor energetics entertainment. Though, do not do it in a crowded area. Do not do it if you want to actually cause harm. This is for educational purposes only. And I just think chemistry is cool. Making a copper complex is a very fun activity. I have a lot of fun doing it. You can probably tell by the fact that I've gone a bit ballistic on the filters. Because each of those filters is another project, another attempt. And yeah, it went all right, I guess. I did end up with some product that was very impure and just sucked in every way, shape, and form. But sometimes it happens. Sometimes that's just like the fun of chemistry. If sometimes you do a lot of effort and you get some absolutely trash product, sometimes you start with a dilute solution of the pure chemical, and then a really dilute solution of the ammonia, then you have to dilute like a very tiny bit out to like several quarts. I can tell I don't use imperial, I use metric, but basically one of those jars worth, or half of one of those, I don't know how much those jars are, doesn't really matter because it's not metric, but diluting like this much copper nitrate solution out to like half of one of those big jars, then I can actually isolate pure product from it, even though the entire process seemed like it wasn't going to work. And then when I actually make my copper nitrate and then I dry it out and use it pure, and then I get something that looks promising, then when I try and burn it, it only produces a green flame with no energetic properties whatsoever. 'Tis just a joy of chemistry. Sometimes you put a lot of effort into something for it to suck, and then when you put very little effort into it, it just comes out perfectly. So yeah, it's fun. I highly recommend it. You get some pretty things out of it. It's an experience. You get to wait for things to filter for a long time, which is just the calcium chemistry experience. And then in the end, you can just go like, well, not go ballistic, but you can like do a bunch of stuff with your final product. It's a pretty adaptable chemical. So let's see. I've covered why, why you might want to do it, how you would do it, how it works, and oh yeah, this isn't like a afternoon project really. It usually takes me about 4 hours with the filtering of the chemicals alone. And also, you might notice that I haven't provided any measurements or won't provide any measurements in future videos. That's because this is mostly just vibe chemistry, because I'm doing this as a proof of concept. That might be why my product turned out so trashy, but I'm basically trying to make it so that I have excess ammonium calcium nitrate, because excess copper sulfate will basically just poison your end product with a related chemical with a lot of similar properties but no energetic properties, tetraamine copper sulfate. So you want to basically do it, you want to use a lot of the nitrate, and then the sulfate, you basically just want to use enough that you can precipitate out a lot of the calcium sulfate, but you want to leave some calcium nitrate in there as well, because it will basically guarantee that you don't have any contamination in your batch. It can be hard to tell when you have enough, but I recommend maybe conducting like a trial run or two, getting a feel for how much of each solution is required for the precipitation of the calcium sulfate to stop, and then you can from there sort of extrapolate out to the amount that you might need to get the solution to the point where there's just barely any calcium nitrate left. I should probably stop rambling. I'm having way too much fun talking about this. I should probably get up to bed because it's late at night, but I don't want to because I keep wanting to ramble about this. But anyways, I'm forcing myself to stop here. Maybe synthesis video coming out soon. Hopefully, I might make another one of just higher quality. Maybe I could start doing some like molar calculations and stuff like that, though I don't actually like really know how to do it yet. Yes, I am admitting that I haven't gone into the really advanced like the most of the basics, yes, but I know enough to do these syntheses, talk about how it works. I can't give you concrete like numbers, but I can give you vibes, and really that's all that is required to have fun, because I'm not doing this to really get stuff. I'm doing it to have fun, and that is the entire point of it. And if you don't have fun doing it, then you probably did something wrong. Either that or you're just waiting on a filtration. I've been there so many times. In fact, I've been there whilst having to inhale large quantities of ammonia gas because something caused all the ammonia and the calcium ammonium nitrate, all the ammonium nitrate and the calcium ammonium nitrate to randomly just turn into ammonia gas for no reason. So that was fun. My lungs felt like they didn't work. So be careful if you're doing a double displacement and one of the compounds is a base. You don't have to worry about that with this one, but if you're doing it with carbonates to get certain chemicals, then beware, you will get ammonia gas. So anyways, I said it already, I'll say it again. I need to stop rambling to myself in this basement. And I should probably sign off and say, here it is, a general guide, no editing, because I kind of want to get this out real quick. I don't have any editing software. I haven't figured out how to move stuff from my phone to my computer. And I don't want to, I feel like I have done a good enough job of filling this video with talking that I won't need to edit, really. Any silence. So yeah, how to make TACN, some helpful chemistry tips. I don't think I got too off track. Here's a summary. Don't mind this stuff. This is me just inventing a number cipher. But yeah, fun.